Would you rather have unlimited bacon, but no more games? Or games, unlimited games, and no games?
Back in 2021, that second part of the would you rather didn't make much sense. Unlimited games but no games? What does that even mean? Like, do I have every single game made in existence, but I just can't play them? What's stopping me? However, now in the big 2025, we're starting to realize that this question was a warning. A warning about something that has been there. Something that you may have been aware of, but decided to just live with it, or pretend it's not there. Think about it. A site that claims to power imagination. A place with unlimited potential. Has such a lack of it. Let's start off by getting the most common one out of the way. And that of course is a lack of updates. And from a glance, yeah, this makes complete sense. A game stops adding new content and there's nothing new to do. Simple as that. This is especially a problem in Roblox, where most of the people that play are 7-year-olds on their crusty iPads or the average screen-addicted teenager with the attention span of a goldfish. If the game falls short of having consistent updates, then it tends to get boring. Let's take Bee Swarm Simulator for example, one of the most intricate games on Roblox, but has one of the worst update schedules ever. And due to the fact that almost all of its updates are seasonal, the time in between feels incredibly dry, as most of the good content is gone until the following year. Another issue, which could honestly just be me entirely, but if a game stops updating, especially if it's a game that you can play with people, then I just don't find a reason to play it anymore. For example, in Neon Nights, first of all, I love this game a lot, but besides for a Christmas event that happens every year, there isn't anything new being added. I think the reason that this feels like it's not worth continuing is because it feels like you're working towards nothing. Something incomplete. I do still heavily recommend trying this game out though, it's amazing. But of course, not all updates are created equal. Take Deep Open's Layer 2 update and compare it with any recent one they've added. There is a huge difference in the amount of playable content added. Notice how I said playable content. Most updates fall into 3 main categories. There are probably more, but for the sake of simplicity, we're going to stick with these 3. First is content. These are the types of updates that add new refreshing gameplay and goals for the players to achieve. They're probably the most important types for keeping players coming back to your game. Second is balance changes. These primarily help, well, balance the game so that it's not too difficult or too easy for the players. And lastly is bug fixes, which essentially just polish the game and fix any unintentional features. Most of the time, content updates are extremely more noticeable than balance changes or bug fixes, as they introduce a new layer to a game. But if your game focuses more on the other two, then players don't notice anything different in between updates and start to feel a little bored. Again, not saying it's a bad thing, just unnoticeable to the players. I personally had a Deep Open phase which lasted around 3 months. Boom y'all you won, I know. And from start to finish, there were close to no meaningful content updates that I experienced. The most they added were maybe 3 legendary weapons?
Editing Tabby here, so apparently Deep Open did just release their Chainbreaker update, but it has been the first update in a very, very long time that actually introduces like new stuff, so take from that what you will.
While their update logs looked lengthy, most of the changes were simple fixes and balance changes that didn't really affect many players at the time. Did you know that 45% of players on Roblox are under the age of 12 and 22% are under the age of 9? Well, the percentages are probably completely inaccurate because kids obviously lie about their age to get special features, but it's still a significant amount nonetheless. With most players being mere youngins, developers have to cater the difficulty of their games to incompetent children who won't play a tutorial for the life of them. My only research behind this point is how I was confused on how to play Slime Rancher and Castle Crashers when I was 7. I know how they work now though because I'm a big 15-year-old, but I digress. If a game is easy, then all you really do is win. The only ways to lose are to try to lose, be incredibly bad, or maybe the game doesn't even have a way for you to lose at all. This is, at least for me, very fucking boring. If you had to fight a kindergartner and you had a sledgehammer and they had a plastic fork, it wouldn't really feel rewarding when you eventually reduce them into shit, which is kind of how I feel when playing these games. Some examples are really just any game with neon colors and with a bunch of GUI that colors half the screen, or blocks routes. Like I swear to god, this game is so fucking easy to the point where you have to try to die at certain points, like holy shit. I just really hate blocks routes. But yeah, games like Pet Simulator and Grow a Garden have almost no challenge to them whatsoever. I know that they're not supposed to be difficult, and it's luck-based, but come on, what is this? At least Fish has a way to lose. Hey, sorry if you were enjoying that, but if you were, consider subscribing. All it takes is 1 click to make me happy. Anyways, I'll get out of your hair, back to the video. Let's say you find a game you like. You keep playing it until eventually there's just nothing else to do. Playing it becomes pointless as there's no real progress to make anymore. So sure, you have everything, but what use is everything if you've already done all the game has to offer? The thing is, games only have so much they can include, especially in Roblox where the games are a lot more shallow compared to more popular titles. In games like Tower Defense Simulator, becoming a high level and obtaining newer and better towers is a necessity to progressing. However, when you progress and get those better towers, you're basically done with the game.
Hey, editing Tabby here again. So apparently Tower Defense Simulator decided to add a skill tree in PvP mode with like a rank system. So yeah, I don't know if my points are still going to be relevant, but yeah, back to the video.
Sure, there's a leveling system and skins that you can grind for, but that really doesn't matter unless you like spending your life trying to climb a leaderboard. In games that have a proper endgame where you get to use the items you've obtained during the progression, or there just isn't a progression, another problem arises. That is meta stagnation. Now, metas themselves aren't necessarily a bad thing in a game that receives consistent balancing patches and bug fixes, but in games that either don't update much or just completely ignore issues, some metas can become extremely dominant to the point that everyone uses that specific build or playstyle and nothing else because they just aren't effective. Now, of course, this problem is restricted towards a few categories, like I would imagine a roleplay game to have an optional method to do
Your hair is so soft.
whatever they do in those games, but it's still an issue considering most top page games have this. Bloxfruit's meta is extremely terrible. For its shitty update schedule, it should at least include systems that shift what's good or not. As far as I know, you get punished for not using the most optimal build. Yes, you get punished for being creative. This means that everybody else is using the same fruits and weapons as everybody else. There are a lot of games that you can argue have some sort of meta stagnation. For example, if we bring back Tower Defense Simulator, there are lures that you kind of have to use to win. Or even if we look at Battlegrounds games, there will always be optimal ways to play certain characters. At a certain point, this just makes everything boring. You're basically repeating the same actions that everybody else does over and over and over again. Repeatability is the core foundation of most Roblox games. Whether you like it or not, almost every game has content that you repeat. Some make the gameplay loop fun and different, making the repeatability a fun feature. However, most games make this their primary weakness. Let's start off by comparing the new top page game Grow a Garden to Item Asylum, a game that you should probably know if you've seen literally any of my other videos. Grow a Garden's gameplay loop is simply wait 5 minutes, see if anything good is in the shop, wait for fruits to grow, wait for mutations, wait for the event, pick fruits, wait for eggs to hatch, and pray to RNGs that you get something good. Now I said wait about 5 times there, which is its own separate issue, but you get the point. Now let's look at Item Asylum. Its gameplay loop is vote for a map in one of the 9 different game modes, spawn with a choice of 3 randomly curated kits, or a completely unique loadout with over 1.7 million different combinations, fight other players, bosses, and so much more. Now, let me ask you something. What's the main difference you notice between these two gameplay loops? What you should have said is how Item Asylums is better in every way. Not just because it includes more things, but because it doesn't feel like you're doing the same exact thing every single time you play the game. Sure, you could say that there are 2 different types of games, which is a completely valid point, and full disclosure, I grinded Go a Garden during finals because, you know, what else was I supposed to do? Study for Spanish? Oh fuck. But my point still stands. A bad gameplay loop isn't fun for the player. At a certain point, they're just going through the motions, not doing anything meaningful. The game becomes brainless, boring, hell, even a chore. Now, of course, a Roblox video isn't complete without shit-talking on big studios that prioritize money. You could argue that this is because of a lot of different things, but to be honest, this video isn't about all that. We're just here to focus on how big studios use their copy-paste methods, which, surprise, surprise, make games boring. Methods like over-monetization can make the game unplayable for free-to-play players, leaving them demoralized as people who pay easily surpass them. And going back to our updates section, content recycling just makes updates boring, as if all they did was add bigger numbers. Power walls continue to create a gap between free-to-play and pay-to-win players. What is a power wall? Well, it's kind of just like an unpassable obstacle that only some players can pass, and the players that can pass it are much stronger than those behind it. Take huge pets, or I don't know, whatever size they decided to add in any pet simulator game. The main method of obtaining these is by spending Robux on eggs, with pretty slim odds of actually getting one of the huge pets. That alone isn't the main issue though. The issue is huge pets always being the best, as they will always be more powerful than the strongest pet you have in your inventory. And again, the only method of obtaining these huge pets is by using money, because the only ways to obtain them for free have very, very small chances of obtainment. At the end of the day, the huge pets create, well, a huge strength difference between players with and without them. Another method that a lot of games use, not just big studio games, is limited time events. First of all, I'm not opposed to these, like, yeah, have a Christmas update or whatever, but don't make it start in the middle of summer. The main issue with some of these events, though, is FOMO, or the fear of missing out. Now, normally when a big studio publishes an event, there will be constant reminders that whatever is in the event is only there for a limited amount of time and will never return once it's over. This forces players to play, not for enjoyment, but to grind for the things that will eventually disappear from the game when the event dies out. Most of the time, they even strengthen this fear by making event items completely more powerful than anything else in the game. Kinda like how in Grow Garden the Candy Blossom was, and still might be, the best fruit. I don't know, it's cotton candy or something. But it completely dominated the meta for a very long time. The thing is, you can only obtain this from a discontinued event. Wow, we finally covered all these topics. Going over these, there isn't like one clear defining reason why a game is dry. In fact, it's a large combination of a lot of things. And if I'm being completely honest, a game being dry depends on how you like to have fun. Kind of like how I don't like repeating the same boring loop that Forsaken has. But clearly 200,000 people disagree. But with that out of the way, I thank all of you for watching me ramble about random stuff I think is interesting. Now, I did want to add a little section about how communities can make a game dry, but in the end, all I really came up with is that it makes the game just not fun. And sorry if I sound a little weird, I just got my wisdom teeth removed, so, you know, there's holes in my mouth. I also want to thank a few people for helping this video, like, work and everything. So, first of all, Trashcan, who made the thumbnail art, Zerly, who basically made the entire intro, Scooter the Dumb, with some script overview and help, and of course, various other content creators who gave me some feedback. As well as that, I do also want to thank my friend for playing Dark Souls 3 in the background. But yeah. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment on what you think about this because I feel like there's a lot more to be said here. And with that, Nero was Queen. Bye.
He's kind of built like Jason from Forsaken.
True.